Hello everybody, today we are bringing you the last tier list for the limited portion, and it's a tier list for rares and legendaries, and we will be doing it a little bit differently than the rest of the tier list because we will not be talking about every single card. On screen you see the complete tier list, but we will be only talking about the cards that are unique or have a specific interaction that are worth mentioning, or about a cards that seem really good but are not very good, and seem really bad and are very good. But rest of them, they are so rare in limited that you shouldn't play around cards of this rarity. So let's go with the first card we want to discuss, and it's
First light. Yeah. So 7 cost ship that has 4 power, 7 HP, and abilities, which are great, and each other friendly non-leader units gains great, and also this ship has smuggle for 7 that deals 4 damage to a friendly unit when it is played from a smuggle. And yeah, this card is just not the greatest. Like, the fact that it costs 7 and doesn't really bring you that great of a stat line makes this card slightly weaker, like a lot weaker. And like the ability that of giving friendly units grid sounds good on paper, but in practice, around 7 resources and onwards, like the game tends to be there tends to be not that many units on the field in the later stages of the game. So the fact that each of your friendly units gains grid doesn't really do that much. Like, it's probably like 1 or maybe 2 units that gains grid, and also those units have to be damaged in order for grid to work. And yeah, just a poor stat line makes this card not the greatest.
Yeah, I may only add that there is also a lot of common and uncommon ships that cost 5, 6 or more that trade with him. And it makes him even worse, because if you play a 7 mana ship, this should be a massive play, and 4/7 in space is just insignificant in that portion of the game. Yeah, so let's go to the next card, and next card is Evidence of the Crime. It's a 3 mana event to take control of an upgrade that costs 3 or less and attach it to an eligible unit of your choice. And this card is really, really powerful. It is a situational card, but it's much stronger than it seems on the surface. Because, as we mentioned many times before, upgrades in limited are really powerful. There is a really big amount of powerful upgrades in the game, like Mandalorian armor, the flamethrower, the +2/+2. But even stealing a shield might make this card worth it to play. And even stealing an experience token in some cases will make your minion survive, your opponent minion will die. So the worst case scenario for this card is not that bad, but the best case is just a game breaking. Because if you would steal Frozen in Carbonite, or Mandalorian armor, or a flamethrower, or Boba's armor, it may just swing a game to the point that it's almost unlosable. So just for that, you should if you drop this card, you should consider put it into your deck. Also, if you see your opponent running really important upgrades and you are playing best of 3, this is one of the few cards you can consider bringing to your deck, even if it's off color. So for 5 mana, if your opponent is playing Boba's armor, 5 mana to remove Boba's armor is enough to be put into your deck. Okay, so let's go to the next card, and it's the last card for the Vigilance. And
Okay.
it's Sugi.
Yes, Sugi. She costs 4. She has double blue aspect, and her stat line is 4 attack, 6 HP. She has a sentinel while an enemy unit is upgraded, and also has a smuggle for 6 resources. And the tricky part about this card is the fact that her smuggle only requires you to have 1 vigilance aspect. So yeah, I mean, at the first glance, you might think that double aspects cards are just not really worth running in limited, but because this card smuggle only requires you to have 1 vigilance aspect, makes this card just basically pretty good when played for smuggle, because it's just 4/6 that draws you a card, and sometimes it's a sentinel for 6 resources, and that's just pretty good value. So yeah, just keep in mind that this card has only 1 vigilance on smuggle.
Yeah, I can also add that playing her for 6 from hand is below average, but it's not unplayable.
Yeah, like if you don't have another 6 drop, then you can do this, but yeah, the main use case is playing it from smuggle.
Yeah. So she may be a little bit better than most double aspect cards. Okay, so let's go to the red card. Red cards, and first we are going to talk about Embrace Flamethrower. It's a 3 mana upgrade that you can attach to a non-vehicle unit, and the attached unit gains +1/+1 and on attack ability that you may deal 3 damage divided as you choose among enemy ground units. And this card can just win you the game on its own. If you put it on turn 2 and you manage to attack with your unit, kill your opponent unit with this effect, they may never recover the ground arena. Unless they have removal or unless they have an immediate answer for this upgrade, 3 damage whenever you attack is enough to make almost every trade to be advantage for you. And just for that, it's an immediate first pick. And because the worst thing that can happen is you play it, your opponent removes it, like with every upgrade. But for free, you getting 1/1 is bad value. But the fact that it can single-handedly win you the game is just such an upside that it's worth running in every red deck that you play.
Yeah, I mean, the downside of this card of giving only +1 HP for a free cost upgrade is not the greatest, but yeah, you have just to make sure that the opponent can't kill that unit, and if you manage to attack with that unit at least once and deal this free damage, then this card really does a lot in those cases. And if you manage to keep that unit alive for longer than 1 turn, than 1 round, it's gonna be insane, because yeah, just dealing 3 damage is a lot of value whenever you can just attack base constantly and the unit doesn't really get any damage unless the opponent has a way to deal it from their hand or with a unit that they have.
Yeah, and there isn't that much removal, so if you attack with the unit once, it's basically a really good card, because there is a removal for free that deals 3 damage. That is already a decent card. And every other attack after the first one is just insane.
Yeah.
So just for that, remember that, of course, you can attack face and use the ability on the cards that are on the ground.
Yeah, that's the main reason why this card is so good, because you can attack base and then use the on-attack ability.
Okay, so let's go to the next card, and it's
Kylo's Tie Silencer. So 2 cost, 3 attack, 2 HP ship that has an action. And if this unit was discarded from your hand or deck this phase, play it from your discard pile. You may play it from your discard pile. Obviously, you have to pay for the 2 resource cost for it. And I mean, this card is just basically a 3-2 for 2 ship. Like the action ability is basically never useful. Like if you play Kylo, then it's okay, but Kylo is just such a weak leader in limited that you shouldn't really play him at all. And there are not that many there are not that many effects that discard card from your deck. I mean, there are quite a few that discard from your hand, but they are not particularly great. Like there is pillage, and then the free resource villainy card that makes you discard one card, but it's just basically a 3-2 for 2
Yeah.
with some sort of upside.
Yeah, it's not a bomb. It's just a 2-mana 3/2 spaceship. And of course, 2-mana 3/2 spaceship will go into most decks if you can run it, but it's just not that amazing for a legendary. And lastly, for red, we have Jango Fett. It's a 4-mana bounty hunter, 3/6 stat line. He's also an underworld that while this unit is attacking something with a bounty, it gets +3 attack and overwhelm. And whenever it kills a unit, you draw a card. So this card in any deck that consistently will have a bounty on your opponent is amazing. The stat lines are okay. So 4-mana 3/6 is an okay stat line. 4-mana 6/6 is an insane stat line. The ability to draw your cards is relevant. It's not game breaking, but it's relevant. But if your deck doesn't have bounty synergy, he is not that great. It's just an average unit, and there is much better 4-drops in the set if you don't have enough ways to put a bounty on your opponent units.
Yeah,
and of course, there is enough bounty cards in the set to still play him even if you don't have enough bounties, because your opponents may play a unit with a bounty and then you will gain value. But whenever you build a deck, doesn't immediately put him like, oh, Jango Fett is amazing, I should always play him, I should always build around him. Just make sure that your deck actually supports him in a way that he is useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so next we will be going to green cards.
So command, and the first card is Acquaintance Assault Cruiser. So 8 cost ship that has 7 attack, 8 HP, has ambush, and when this unit attacks and defeats a non-leader, then he puts the defeated unit into play as a resource under your control. So basically gives you a free ramp. And the main thing why this ship is really strong is because there are a lot of 5 cost, 6 cost ships in Space Arena that he can just easily kill with his ambush when he enters the play, and then he is still a big threat. So yeah, basically gives you a free ramp because of that ambush, and he just plays quite well into what type of cards we have in this set in terms of ship that costs 5-6 resources. He can just basically kill every single one. He can even kill some more expensive ones, like the first light, the ship that gives grit to each of your units. So yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think he kills every single ship in the expansion.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I mean, he doesn't kill Finalizer, but yeah, those that are his cost and below then.
But okay, Finalizer is just basically.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a second. So yeah, let's move on.
So yeah, it's because because of ambush, the 8-mana is not that bad, because he could be a 7-drop without ambush and have the similar effect. So yeah, he is really good in various decks, as in like endgame solution to space and just to finish the game, because 7 attack will finish the game quite quickly. Okay, and now we are talking about the big guy. So 11 mana Finalizer. It's a spaceship that is 11/11, has overwhelm, and when played, choose any number of friendly units. Each of those units captures an enemy non-leader unit in the same area. And this card is basically useless. Because you shouldn't play around the fact that you will get to 11 resources. If this card...
Most games just end before 11 resources, so just keeping this card in your hand, hoping that you will get to that point, is just not really worth it.
Yeah. You would need to have a really, really specific deck for this to be playable. So like, if you have a ramp Jabba deck that has really tons of removal, and you know you will be staying really late in the game, you may consider running Finalizer. But still, there is so many good late game cards in the set that I would probably prefer to run Arcrid's Assault Cruiser instead and have a consistent card on 8 than wait 3 more resources to play something that is just... Yeah, it has amazing stats, but it doesn't really do enough when played. And if you play him and he got removed, you just wasted 5 resources to go to him. Because I will also add that you shouldn't resource past your most expensive card in the deck whenever you build. So the value from the cards you play is more than enough to play them without putting more resources than you should. So, and if you play Finalizer, he will be probably 4 resources more expensive than your second most expensive card. So to play him, you will also need to waste 4 cards to put them on resource. Okay, so let's go to the next card.
Okay. The next card is Darksaber. So 4 cost upgrade that gives a unit +4/+3. This upgrade can't be attached to vehicles, and while playing this upgrade on a Mandalorian unit, you ignore the aspect penalty, and also attached unit gains ability on attack, give an experience token to each other friendly Mandalorian unit. And this is just an upgrade that gives quite good value, like 4 resources for +4/+3 is pretty good ratio. This card is just great in a Saxon because you can play this on Saxon, and then because when Saxon dies, he returns the upgrade that the unit had to your hand. So you can basically replay the Darksaber. And the fact that it gives experience token to Mandalorians is also a pretty good upside. Because there are quite a lot of Mandalorians in this set. So you can play this card even if you don't run the green as your leader's color or base, and if you have enough Mandalorians, this card is still decent.
Yeah. I would say that this card is really good in Bo-Katan and Saxon, and it's okay if you're running the color in the rest of the leaders. But the combination with Saxon is strong enough to definitely be considered.
Yeah, it's like similar concept to Boba's armor. Like Boba's armor is slightly better, but yeah, it's close.
Yeah, so let's go to the next card, and it's a really, really big one. So it's a 6 mana Evacuate, and you will return each non-leader unit to its owner's hand. So this card is really, really polarizing. It may feel amazing when you play it, or it may feel really useless. But if you build your deck around it a little bit, so if you will have a lot of removal, or if you will have a really strong leader, because it will bounce everything except your leader. So if you have a leader that goes on 6 or 7, and he's a really big statted guy, you can play it on the turn that your leader comes up, bounce everything else, play him, and try to dominate the arena from there, even if your opponent had something better before. The added benefit is also that every single upgrade will go to the grave, because the upgrades will not be bounced back to the hand. But on the other side, if your opponent has a developed leader, this card will not stop him, and it's also a card that is really tempo heavy, not value heavy, because your opponent will still play every single unit they had on the board in the future. So you need to close the game before they will gain the value back.
Yeah. So the main use case for this card is just to slow the opponent down, and if you have a really good late game, then the value of this card is pretty good. But you have to really make sure that you have a good late game for this card to be worth running.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up on the list we have Dr. Evazan. So 2 cost, free shielded, which has a bounty ready up to 12 resources when this unit dies or is captured. And yeah, the stat line seems on paper really good, like having a 2-drop that has a free stat line would be an S tier card in limited, and also the shielded it should be even better. But the bounty is such a big downside that it makes this card really underwhelming. Like if you played on the first round, then he's okay, but basically in later stages of the game he's unplayable, and the fact that he has a bounty on him makes him really weak in some matchups, like against Bosk. He is just very weak, and there are quite a few cards that benefit from having bounty on opponent unit. And yeah, just this card just is pretty weak. Like don't be like don't think that don't expect this card to be like insanely good, because yeah, the opponent will eventually get the bounty and ready those 12 resources, and that might just lose you the game a lot of the times. You really have to be really aggressive for this card to be worth running. But
I will only add, because limited is a slower format than constructed. So running a card like Evazan that is really polarizing. That okay, he can you play him on turn 1, he will kill 3 units, and then your opponent will not untap because you killed him as a first action. Yeah, he may seem amazing, but on the other hand, if you play him like on turn 4, and your opponent plays any good removal, you basically wasted a card, and or worse, they play a 5-drop, they kill him, then play another 5-drop, and you basically lost the game. So for that reason, if you want to consistently win in limited, you should try to avoid playing cards like that.
Yeah. And also the thing that makes Evazan weaker is the fact that there are ambushes, and ambushes are really strong in limited in general, and in this set we have quite a lot of them, especially in canning.
Yeah, there's also quite a few saboteur cards.
Yeah.
So so we are going to the next card, and the next card is a Swipdown. And this card is much stronger than it seems on paper. It's a 1-mana tactic that you can attack with a space unit. The space unit will gain Saboteur, and it can attack a ground unit while getting +2 attack, and the defender gets -2 attack. So why this card is stronger than it seems? Mostly because there is much more playable space units in this set. Also, in limited, cards like Shoot First was really strong, because you for a low cost you were trading up, and because of the -2 attack that the defender gets, you will most likely survive the attack, and the addition of Saboteur will kill units like Evazan, like the 2-mana 2/2
in
heroic
blue
cunning.
yeah, villagers.
Yeah, or villagers, or I meant the droid that's 2 mana, 2/2, and rescue and capture card.
L3, yeah.
Yeah, L3. So because of that, this card is whenever you can use it, it's extremely strong. And for example, if you have a 3/2 for 2 mana, the mercenary ship, it can kill something that has 5 HP. So it can kill a 3/5 unit and survive, and it's an amazing value. If you play the 3/2 on first turn, your opponent will on 3 resources play a 3/5, and there is 3 of them in this set. And you manage to kill him for 1 and play a 2-drop, you will gain such a big value advantage that you can win a game from that. So it's just a really, really versatile removal that will surprise your opponents because they will not expect that your space unit will be able to attack in the ground arena. And just to explain it a little bit more, because this card gains Saboteur, so it doesn't really matter, but whenever a space unit attacks a ground arena, it can skip Sentinel anyway, because it only cares about the Sentinel that is in their arena. So if there isn't a Sentinel in the space arena, you will always be able to attack any unit on the ground.
Yeah, and with this card, you have just to make sure that you have enough space unit, especially the 2-drops that this card. So this card can be consistently played.
I would think if you have at least 5 space ships, you may safely run it. If you have less, I would consider cutting it. And if you have three or less, I would just not add it into the deck. Okay, and that's all. Like there is really big amount of rare and legendary cards, and there will be a big reason if your deck is strong or not. But in limited, you shouldn't play around a card that with this of this rarity. So unless you know your opponent runs a certain card, you should always play more around commons and uncommons than versus rares. So that's why we decided to do that trigger release this way. So thank you guys and have a great day.
See ya.